Kazakhstan is the ninth largest country on Earth, larger than all of Western Europe combined. It holds 12% of the world's uranium and billions of barrels of oil. It is the wealthiest nation in Central Asia, but it has a fatal flaw. It is effectively a prisoner. To reach the open ocean, its goods must travel thousands of kilometers through potentially hostile territories. Why is the world's greatest resource giant trapped in a geographic cage? The answer lies carved into the earth itself. For millennia, the ancient caravan tracks of the Silk Road traced the natural contours of the Kazakh steppe, steering traders along river valleys and through low mountain passes. But when 20th century Soviet engineers arrived, they transformed these ancient trading paths into a rigid industrial grid. They laid down the massive Turkestan-Siberian Railway, a colossal steel skeleton designed to drain the wealth of the steppe northward into the factories of a distant imperial capital. Today, an independent nation operates on a system built to serve someone else's empire. This vast territory is the ninth largest country on Earth, a landmass larger than all of Western Europe combined. Beneath its steppe lies 12% of the world's uranium deposits and 30 billion barrels of proven oil, fueling an economy that ranks as the wealthiest in Central Asia by per capita income. Yet this immense wealth reveals a fatal flaw. Without direct access to the open ocean, every resource must cross foreign territory to reach global buyers. As energy analysts warn, massive natural endowments do not grant automatic strategic freedom. Instead, they lock the nation into a state of acute export exposure, where a landlocked giant remains entirely dependent on the transit corridors of its neighbors. To the west, Kazakhstan's border meets the Caspian Sea, a body of water historically defined by a diplomatic dispute over whether it is legally a lake or a sea. The 2018 Caspian Convention bypassed both definitions, classifying it as a closed inland basin. Hydrologically, it remains an endorheic sink sitting 26.5 meters below sea level, with no natural connection to the open ocean. For Kazakhstan, this water behaves as a blue wall. The only navigable path to the global ocean is the Volga-Don Canal, a waterway lying entirely under Russian sovereignty. Through this canal, Moscow regulates all transit, enforcing strict vessel draft limits, and a 5,000-ton cargo ceiling that restricts modern trade. This control grants Russia absolute gatekeeper power over the entire basin. The world's largest landlocked nation is left with a geographic illusion, a massive coastline that looks like an escape route, but ultimately terminates at someone else's gate. The physical tracks and pipelines laid down during the Soviet era created a structural dependency that outlived the Union itself. Key Kazakh export nodes were deliberately tied to Russian outlets, locking the newly independent state into a legacy grid. Today, the centerpiece of this network is the Caspian Pipeline Consortium. This single artery has a massive annual capacity of about 109.5 million tons, carrying roughly 1% of the world's entire oil supply. For Kazakhstan, this is an acute concentration risk. Roughly 80% of its crude exports flow through this single pipe, terminating on Russian soil at the Novorossiysk Marine Terminal. Because the terminal sits inside Russian jurisdiction, Moscow holds a geopolitical kill switch. This control is not theoretical. In July 2022, a Russian court ordered a 30-day suspension of operations over minor environmental paperwork, threatening to paralyze Kazakh revenues. In February 2025, a security shock, a missile strike on the Kropotkinskaya pumping station, instantly cut the pipeline's capacity by half, exposing the fragility of the nation's economic lifeline. This vulnerability extends to water transit. The Volga-Don Canal, an inherited Soviet waterway, illustrates how past trade routes became modern tools of control. Moscow regulates every vessel, imposing strict cargo ceilings that choke independent trade. As Central Asian geopolitics scholars argue, this extreme transit dependency fundamentally erodes national sovereignty. When a state cannot physically ship its primary resources without foreign permission, its foreign policy is constantly held hostage. Technical transport issues cease to be mere logistics. They become existential questions of survival, where national autonomy must be carefully balanced against the threat of a closed valve. To escape the Western chokehold, Kazakhstan has looked to the east, only to find another colossal gravitational pull. Eastbound trade now relies heavily on Chinese rail networks. In early 2026, rail freight volume between Kazakhstan and China grew 9.3%, while raw export cargoes jumped 17%. The railway corridor stretching from the Caspian to the Chinese border at the Dostik-Alashanku crossing acts as a heavily utilized commercial conduit. Yet, this shift reveals a new paradox. Exchanging dependency on one neighbor for reliance on another merely alters the geography of vulnerability. As cargo backlogs periodically stall at the border, Beijing gains significant commercial and logistical sway. Diversification has not bought total freedom. It has simply replaced a Western gatekeeper with an Eastern giant. To bypass the geographic chokeholds of its neighbors, Kazakhstan is building its own escape hatch, the Middle Corridor. Formerly known as the Trans-Caspian International Transport Route, this corridor links China to European markets through Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. Astana is backing this bypass with heavy infrastructure capital, centering its efforts on the Caspian ports of Aktau and Kurik. At Aktau, a 47.6 billion Tenjie container terminal, developed with China's Lianyungang Port Group, targets a capacity of 240,000 cargo units by late 2026. Nearby, the Kurik terminal is expanding to handle bulk and liquid cargo. Yet, logistics operators face severe operational limits. Shifting freight from rail to ship and back to rail creates a complex, multimodal bottleneck. While the corridor physically bypasses Russia, limited vessel berths and customs delays on the Caspian Sea mean that shipping here remains slower and more expensive than traditional northern rail lines. For Astana, transforming from a landlocked giant to a land-linked hub is a race against these hard logistical realities. Kazakhstan's struggle belongs to a much larger regional anomaly. Central Asia functions not as a normal seaborne trading arena, but as a sealed geographic interior. To the south lies Uzbekistan, one of only two doubly landlocked nations on Earth, where any outward shipment must traverse at least two foreign borders before reaching a shoreline. This entire territory is locked behind massive mountain ranges, sprawling deserts, and dominant regional rivals that make infrastructure expansion incredibly difficult. It raises a fundamental question. How can a state build lasting global influence when its entire neighborhood is physically barred from the ocean? To break the walls of this geographic prison, Astana is championing a radical alternative, transforming from landlocked to land-linked. This is not just about building tracks. It is a battle for sovereignty. By repositioning itself as the indispensable bridge between East and West, Kazakhstan seeks to turn its vulnerability into leverage, making its territory central to both European and Asian supply chains. Yet, this strategic pivot forces an uncomfortable question. In a region dominated by competing superpowers, can any infrastructure project truly escape the reach of a regional gatekeeper? Every new route requires an exit point, and every exit point is guarded by a neighbor. As trade volumes swell, the ultimate test remains unresolved. Kazakhstan is racing to construct a network strong enough to outgrow its transit dependence, but geography is a patient warden. The giant remains trapped in a high-stakes calculation, where every path to freedom still requires someone else's key. How do you build a superpower in a region hemmed in by deserts, mountains, and rivals? Kazakhstan's struggle to escape its blue wall and become land-linked is a modern battle for sheer sovereignty. Will geography always dictate its limits? Type map for our Uzbekistan deep dive.